Welcome to another Botany 5 in 5, and today we're in the Devil's Glen in County Wicklow near Ashford. And the Devil's Glen is a deep ravine that's been caused by, gouged out by glacial meltwater. It's a wooded ravine, you can see the trees all around us, and we've got the Vartry River flowing alongside. So we've got nice shady, humid conditions, and they're the perfect conditions for the group of plants I want to talk to you today about, and that's the ferns. Okay, so here's our first specimen. It's perhaps not very fern-like, and the reason for that is it's got an undivided leaf, or as we usually use the term frond for ferns. So it's just a simple leaf. Looks perhaps rather like wood garlic. But you can tell it's not a flowering plant because if we flip it over on the back, we can see the reproductive structures which hold these spore-releasing structures here. And they're called sori, and I don't like to go into technical terms too much, but it's much quicker to say sorus or the plural sori than those structures which shed the spores. So I'm going to use that simple term from now on. So the pattern and shape of these reproductive structures is really very important, along with the degree of dissection of the frond. So this is Hart's tongue fern, Asplenium scolopendrium. So this is our second fern, and if we look at this one, we can see that the frond is not entire as we have in the Hart's tongue fern, but it's divided once. So we've got these single divisions coming off the main stem here. And if we flip it over, there aren't any sori. So what's happened here? Well, the reproductive structures in this fern are on rather different looking fronds, and you can see these photosynthetic ones are low down, they're horizontal, they're trapping light. These reproductive ones are much taller and they're shedding the spores into the air currents. And if we flip these narrow fronds over, you can see that there are the sori in 2 rows on the back of these very, very skinny fronds. So it's one of the few ferns in Ireland that has these different sorts of frond on the same plant. This is hard fern, Blechnum spicant. Perhaps we should really call it easy fern. It's an easy one to identify. Okay, so this one is divided more than the ones we've looked at so far. So we've got the very big leaf here, or big frond, with one division going down here, and it's divided again into these much smaller segments here. Okay. Characteristics of this fern, it's in the genus Dryopteris, and Dryopteris has these sori. They're shaped like little pies, or little kidney-shaped pies, so they've got a little indentation on one side. And the other feature of this plant, and I'll need to move it apart a little bit here, is down the stem and at the base it's got covered with this very dense golden scales. So this is scaly male fern, Dryopteris affinis. So we've had a male fern, a scaly male fern, and we have to have a lady fern, and here she is. And again, she's divided, the leaf is divided into 2 levels of dissection. So we've got one level here, another level here, and these are a little bit finer than in the male fern, a little bit more delicate. The reproductive structures, again, on the sori on the back of the frond. In lady fern, they're more elongate. So they're like little J-shaped structures, very different in shape to the male fern. So this is lady fern, Athyrium filix-femina. So our final fern today then is this big one here, and this is broad buckler fern, Dryopteris dilatata. And again, it's got characteristic kidney-shaped sori on the back of the frond, as we've seen in other Dryopteris. But if we look at the frond here in this one, it's divided once, twice, 3 times. So it's got an extra level of division in the frond here. There are also characters, it's got scales as with the male fern down at the base, and these scales at the base of the stem here have got little brown stripes in the middle of them. So all of those characteristics help us identify this particular species. Okay, so the things I've been talking about today are things that you can see quite easily with the naked eye. If you want to see more detail, you can buy a small hand lens, or you can get some quite good apps for your phones that are very useful. Another great trick is to use binoculars like this. And if you invert them and look through the objective instead of the eyepiece, the birders are going to think you're pretty mad, but you can see an enormous amount of detail, and these actually work as a little microscope by looking down in this way here. And you can see really very, very fine detail in these structures. Okay, so the lady fern here appears in a poem by Sir Walter Scott in his novel Waverley. And the poem goes like this: hie away, over bank and over brae, where the copsewood is the greenest, where the fountains glisten sheenest, where the lady fern grows strongest, where the morning dew lies longest, where the blackcock sweetest sips it, where the fairy latest trips it. High to haunts right seldom seen, lovely, lonesome, cool and green, over bank and over brae, hie away, hie away. And that sums up the habitat of these ferns quite nicely.